Hey everybody, it's Liberty, and today I'm going to be talking about why I left Teavana. I want to begin this video by saying this video is not intended to offend my former coworkers of Teavana. They were definitely not the reasons why I left. The reasons are in my outline here that I'll go over in just a bit. There's just a lot of things that happen behind closed doors that I think would be helpful not only for the customers to know and kind of wrap their head around, but also Teavana is going out of business too. I know there's a few things that I think really led up to Teavana not being successful in this tea industry, and I think that my experience can definitely shed some light on a lot of things that go on. What Teavana generally looks for during their interview process, they look for someone that's really energetic, outgoing, who can communicate with anyone. That person that has a really solid communication, just a people person generally. You know, someone that can interact with, I got stuff in my teeth. But yeah, they generally look for people that can interact with anyone, because the whole goal is to not only just make drinks, but the main goal of Teavana is to sell tea. So the procedures, you basically have that person in the front like, hey, how are you? You want to sample some tea? Would you like to come in and sample some more in the back? If people say yes, then we'd follow them to the back. People say no, they just go on their way, they have a free sample, and maybe they'll come in next time. People, when they say yes, they come into the more samples in the back. So generally, we have to pour the samples for these people, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that, but I'll get into that a little bit later. We ask them, have you been to Teavana before? People will say yes, and then would be like, oh great, like what kind of teas do you usually get? And then it's more of this discovery question type of thing. We try to figure out what people really like in their drink. Like, are they more fruity? Are they more kind of like a jasmine green tea type? Do they like more pure teas? Do they like the fruity teas? Do they like the berries? Do they like the red teas? You know, it's just so many teas, so we kind of try to figure out what they like. Even if they're like, no, I've never been to Teavana, well, you know, well, when you do get tea, like what kind of teas do you usually like? And you know, generally we can't give 4 samples, all the 4 samples. We try to get it in at least 2 samples, because obviously samples cost money. We try to kind of be more efficient about it, like, okay, we don't have to have them try all the samples, but there's times where people are like, can I try all of them? Yes, and then they leave. And so that's generally not what we're trying to do. We're trying to reel these people in so that they like one of our samples, and we go show them the tea at the counter and we sell them that tea. I would say it was pretty complicated if you didn't really have that skill set, so that kind of stuff. But so that's the main procedure. We just get people to sample the tea in the front, reel them in to sample the tea, get them to like a tea without actually giving them all 4 samples. And people are generally not allowed to have more than 1 sample. You have a little cup, that's the only sample you can get. It's a sample, it's not a free drink. A lot of people have problems with that. Once you get to the counter, you have your tea prices, you have your teas. Every tea have a different price. You have like your silver teas on top, which were generally like the super pure teas. They were never fruity. They were just really good. They all have different flavors. Obviously, you would have like several types of green teas. Some would be a little bit more sweeter, some would be bitter. You have your white teas. You have just a whole row of different teas, and generally the silver teas were the best quality teas. Like, they just taste better and whatnot. They were like $20 for 2 ounces. People did not want to spend $20, $10 on 2 ounces of tea. I'll actually bring you a sample of what 2 ounces of tea generally looks like. Ounces of this, I think, was around $10. But yeah, this is generally what 2 ounces looks like. And even though people were interested, they would see the 2 ounce and they're like, oh no, like I don't want that. But yeah. It's understandable. It's expensive. It's not cheap to buy tea at Teavana. So generally we try to sell them a month's worth of tea, which is quite difficult when 2 ounces is, you know, $10, so about a month is almost $100. So it's kind of like you're spending at least like the minimum, probably like $20 if you want to make the tea. But then you have to buy like the tea set, how to make the tea, because obviously this is loose leaf tea. It's not your average tea in a packet. We make it completely different, which I'm not going to go over because that could be a whole nother video all in itself. But you get where I'm going here. Like, it's very pricey to even get started with the tea, and it's kind of hard for someone who's not generally like a tea connoisseur to want to even purchase this kind of tea for that price, when they can go to a 99-cent store and just pay for green tea or something. Like, I don't know. I definitely want to get into my favorite topic here, and I'm gonna just go right out and say it. Everyone's a sampler. You are a sampler, you are a sampler, you are a sampler. That's literally the name we gave people that came to the store, sampled everything, and left. The goal of the samples isn't to give you a free taste. Obviously, like, it is free taste of the tea. It's not, but its intentions are not for people to come in, sample, and go. There are people who are interested in buying tea. They want to kind of get into like what, you know, like they want to figure out what kind of tea they like, so they sample the tea. Like, do you like this one? Do you like this one? No. So then we can, obviously there's just so many teas on the wall, you're not going to smell every single one. The samples are there so you get an idea of like what you like, so that, let's just say if you like a fruity tea, we can show you all the fruity teas, like what do you like, you know, and kind of get you in that way. But there were so many people that would come in and sample the tea like crazy. They would pour multiple teacups. I've had people come in with cups and pour sample in their huge like cup. You know, you would get in trouble. Like, we would call security on you, and like, you're basically stealing. That's literally what it is. And so many people would do that. Like, they would take advantage of the sampling, and obviously making those teas, it cost money. During the weekends, it would get really, really crazy, and people just grab the thing. Like, there was so many people we could not control. Sometimes, like, people just grabbing and grabbing and grabbing and grabbing, because obviously there's so many people in the store at once. They're all wanting to sample everywhere. They're just pouring and pouring and pouring, and we're just like, shit, there's only like 3 of us right now that can actually like go and stop this, and we do our best to stop it. And some people don't understand that we have to pour it for them, and it was so frustrating because these people would drop the sample, like, because it was like a pint of tea. They would drop the thing, especially when we had the hot teas, which are like sitting on like little candles that keep the tea warm. It's like a glass little bottle. There's signs everywhere that says please don't pick it up, like ask for assistance, and people would always pick them up, and they would drop the candle and wax would get all over the floor. People would drop everything. They would spill tea. They would just make a mess. And this was an everyday thing. I kid you not. Every day that I was there, when people picked up the hot sample, once a day, at least once a day, someone dropped a candle on the floor, and obviously we had to clean it up. And it was really frustrating for us because obviously, like, we try to control the situation, but there's only so much we can do. There's 4 samples, there's probably like 3 of us, and you know, there's obviously that sample in the front, there's 4 in the back. So when people are like picking things up over and over again, like, we're interacting with one person, then more people come in, like, we can't just keep track of everyone. We're trying to sell to one person, the other 2 are probably trying to sell to the other 2, more people come in, we're obviously doing something else, and then you hear like the candle wax is all over the floor, and obviously, like, if you ever spilled candle wax, it's a pain in the butt to clean up. And I think people generally didn't realize like why we want to pour for them, because we know that would happen. People are just really clumsy, they're messy, and that would happen on a daily basis. And that was really frustrating for all of us, because we're like, oh, like, the samplers are coming, like, people that take advantage of the fact that there's free samples here. It was very, I want to be honest with you, it's very annoying at times, because it's like we're trying to sell things to people, and people just want to come in and sample and just sample and leave. It's like, this is not a free, I don't know what you think this is. This isn't. And you would see the same people coming again and again, like every other day, and it's like, oh my god, like, just buy a drink. And a lot of people were definitely turned off by the price of the drink, which didn't really help our case, because how do we, you know, go around, like, people are like, ooh, that's expensive, like, you know, you agree with it, but you can't really say it. And so that made it really hard also to sell drinks. But obviously, like, during the weekend, we'd have crowds of people ordering drinks, and it was fun. I really like making drinks. It was probably the funner portion of the whole experience. And, you know, we would have people during the weekends. I remember one time I was actually making a drink for someone, and she didn't really know what she wanted. She was on a diet, so she didn't want any sugar in her tea. And when people generally ask for no sugar, we tell them, like, this is going to taste completely different from the sample. Like, obviously tea with no sugar is generally not as good as tea with sugar. There's one instance where this lady, she was on a diet and she didn't know what she wanted. I told her, I recommended like a white tea, something a little bit sweeter, and add a little bit more of I added the tea called Weight to Go, which is meant for like weight loss, I guess, to help your like metabolism and whatnot. So I let her smell the tea. She was very picky. Like, the reason why I came down to those 2 combinations, she was very picky with all the other teas I presented to her. So I was like, okay, let's just do this. And then she liked it. First she wanted it hot. Second, no sugar. So I told her if it's hot, it might not taste the same. Like I would recommend this cold because it's like a white tea with a fruitier tea. And in my opinion, fruity teas hot are disgusting. She's like, no, she was insistent. I was like, do you know though, if I don't add sugar, it's not gonna be the same. She's like, yeah, that's okay, whatever. And then so I make her tea and she sips it and she's like, I don't like it. I don't like it. And literally that's all she repeated to me, how much she didn't like the tea. And she was with her friend was just looking at her and looking at me like, I don't know if she was embarrassed, I don't know what she was thinking. I offered obviously to make her another tea because I'm like, I felt bad that she didn't like the tea that I made, but at the end of the day she did smell the teas and she kind of got an idea of how it would taste, and I let her know like this is gonna not be that great because it's fruity, it's gonna be hot, and without sugar it's even worse. She was just complaining like she didn't like it, and I asked her, would you like me to make another tea? She's like, no, like I don't like it. Like she was legit gonna cry or something, and I was like, oh Jesus. And so after that kind of like drama queen type thing kind of settled down a little bit, I asked one of my the lead workers there to exchange to refund the money for that one tea. And she went to go ahead and do it. She came back to me and she was like, oh my God, like what was that? And I was like, I don't know. And there was another time where actually I was sampling teas and I was in the front. I was like, hey, would you like to sample this tea? This guy and girl, I guess they were like friends. They sampled it, they really liked it. I think it was Beach Bellini, and then the guy was like, can I have another one? I was like, I'm sorry, it's only one sample per person. He's like, ugh, and he just like throws it away in the trash. And then I hear him saying like, I'm a paying customer, how do I only get one sample? This is ridiculous. And like he started just making a big scene, and then he ended up buying tea, but it's just like, I don't say it to be mean to you, and I think a lot of people think that I'm attacking them for it. It's literally a policy, like it's one tea per customer, like sample, but many people got offended. Ooh, and there's another one that's definitely my favorite. It's the Starbucks drinks. Okay, so I'm sure many of you Starbucks employees and many of you Teavana employees know that Starbucks drinks, especially the tea drinks, do not equal Teavana tea drinks. They're completely different. They're not the same. They're not even made the same way, whatnot. But there's this one girl who wanted like this passion, like it was a fruity tea that she gets at Starbucks, and I was like, she's like, can I get that one tea from Starbucks? I was like, which one? Like, you have a lot of teas back here. And then she was just like, oh, it's like this fruity tea, whatnot. I forget the name. I think it was like passion fruit or whatever. She was like, I want that ice with no sugar, like the way that Starbucks makes it. And I'm like, oh, it's actually like, we don't make Starbucks drinks here. Like she initially ordered another Starbucks tea drink that I know it's really like strawberry acai or something like that, because I think that's like a tea thing over there at Starbucks. And I was like, we don't have that tea here. Like we don't make that. That's only a Starbucks thing. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, she asked for another tea that they sell at Starbucks, but they also sell here. So I was like, okay, I'll make it for you. And I asked her, because we always have to ask, you wanted ice or hot? She wanted ice. And I was like, sugar, light sugar, no sugar. She wanted no sugar. And I told her, it's not going to taste the same without any sugar. I'll tell you that right now. And she's like, no, it's fine. I don't want sugar. I want it the way that Starbucks makes it. Because I think in her mind, Starbucks doesn't use sugar for their teas, which... sure they do. I'm just saying. So I made her drink. She takes it and she's like, excuse me, this tastes really watery. And in my mind I was like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? She didn't like it, and so I was just like, oh, like, I'm sorry, because obviously like I know how to make the tea, I know how to make the measurements, but if I did it wrong this time, that was my bad. I was willing to make her another one. Like, I don't know where I messed up, because I generally put more tea than is really allowed, so it gives it a little bit more flavor, depending on the tea. Because I know the tea that she got was very light-bodied tea. It was a light-bodied, like, fruity tea. And light-bodied just means it has less flavor. It's not very bold in flavor. So it can give that feel of kind of like being a watery or watered-down tea. And then so she's like, it's really watery, it's not like Starbucks makes it, it's not the same. And I'm like, we're not Starbucks. Like, I didn't tell her that, but in my mind it's like, we are not Starbucks. We do not make tea the same way Starbucks makes it. We do not even have the same drinks that Starbucks made. Yes, Starbucks like sells our teas, but they don't, it's completely different. Like, stop. And so my coworker steps in, she lets her know like Starbucks actually puts sugar on all their teas, but she gave her like this description of like Starbucks teas and our teas, like how they're completely different, differently made, you can't expect the same. And she just like was like, rolled her eyes and left. And she was like talking to friends like, it tastes so watery. And I was like, I would remake your tea, I would make you something else. And she just did not want to take it. She's just like, no. And she didn't even ask for a refund. So I think a lot of people don't realize that we're not Starbucks. Yes, we are owned by Starbucks. Starbucks is like our mother company or whatnot, but we are not Starbucks. We don't make the same drinks. And for some reason, a lot of people kind of got it in their head that Teavana equals Starbucks. We must have the same drinks, or we have the same drink that, like the passion tea or whatever that Starbucks sells. It's not us. It may have a like Teavana label and everything, but it's not us. First of all, I really want to kind of emphasize to people, yes, Starbucks is going out of business. Oh my god, all these people are screaming and crying. Teavana is going out of business, and I definitely want to put in my 2 cents on this one too, because I think there's many reasons why it's failing. One, because of the samplers. Like, you know how much revenue they lost because people just keep coming in and sampling and leaving and not really contributing to buying anything? You know, it's expensive. I used to make samples on weekends. I used to remake the samples at least each like 5-8 times a day for each sample. Imagine how much they're losing in that. And then for the whole year, I'm sure they lose like millions of dollars on that, because that's just my Teavana store, not all the Teavana stores that are around. So I imagine altogether that's a lot of revenue that's being lost by giving out those free samples to people that just come and leave. So I think that's definitely one thing that they really needed to fix. I think they would have benefited from only having samples on the weekend instead of the weekdays. It was very hard to get people to buy during the week. During the weekend it was a little bit easier. Two, so the summer of 2016, Teavana introduced like this summery theme. Like every season they have their own theme. They have new teas to accompany those themes. They're like seasonal things. And they had like this ugly girl pattern. And literally it was on everything. It was on the tins. There was like tins. Obviously this is not the tin, but they had like this ugly girl tin. Like we literally addressed them as the ugly girl tins because the pattern was just so ugly. Hopefully I can post a picture here. But the tins were so hideous. They had bags, they had the tins. They just had like cups and everything, like tea utensils, whatever, for the summer. And I kid you not, the whole summer I was there, I probably only sold 1 or 2 things from there. Everything else went on sale. So that whole like attract a younger customer base kind of thing, which I think that's what they were trying to do, because it looked kind of like for younger people, but it was like really weird. It failed generally because Teavana doesn't attract like 13-year-olds. It attracts more older people that actually have money to spend on high quality teas, like working people. And so that campaign completely just went out the door. Everything was on sale like 70-50% off, and that's when I bought some of the stuff, which I didn't buy the ugly girl tins. I would not have that in my house. And to be quite honest with you, Teavana is going out of business, and I really highly advise that you people don't walk in the store and ask a worker, oh my god, Teavana is going out of business, is this true? Refrain from doing that, because these people are losing their jobs. Like, this is a lot of people's livelihoods, and you're just walking in there reminding them like, yeah, Teavana is going out of business. Like, to you it may be your first time doing it, but you don't realize how many other people do the same thing that you do. And it's just, they don't need that constant reminder like, oh my god, Teavana's closing, oh my god, is it really closing? Like, no, it's not. No shit, you know? For a lot of these people, they've been working there for years. Like, it's their livelihood, and for you to come in and just make them feel worse about it, like reminding them every day that Teavana's closing, it's not really necessary. So I mean, you're hearing it from me, you're hearing it in the news. They're definitely going out of business as of now, like what I know. I don't know if they have a plan to kind of like not go out of business. Really, the reason why I left is just a combination of frustration of having to go to school full-time, because I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was working at Teavana, I was working at my school, and I was going to school full-time. So I really chose my other job because I've been there longer. 2, I didn't have that kind of like weight over my shoulders like, oh my god, I have to sell something today, because it looks bad when you can't sell to your goal. And it's not that your job's gonna be on the line, but you know, there's just more pressure working at Teavana than I had working at my other job. Like, obviously there's different stresses at my other job, but I think Teavana just brought a whole new thing to the ball game that I didn't really need after being a full-time student and whatnot. For me, it was just the wiser choice to continue working at my university. Yeah. My manager was leaving. He was a very good guy. He was just a really understanding person. Like, I could bring anything up to him. He was really sweet, and you know, he's very wise. And for me to have that manager and then have him leaving soon, I knew there's going to be a lot of changes, and it wasn't for me. I definitely wanted to change as well. Like, I wanted to leave. I didn't want to have to deal with any uncertainties. Like, I'm not looking for a career at Teavana. I was just looking, you know, to have a summer job and maybe, you know, get promoted there, but I left obviously before any promotions could ever be handed to me. And then also that competitive nature, you know, with that one bad apple there, it was kind of like, it's almost like a mental game, because it's like you have people that are, you know, well, you have this one person that is like super friendly, but then also like stealing your sales, and then like it was just this competitive, like this, like underneath everything, it's always a competitive thing for me. Like, I didn't like that feeling of having competition with people that I consider to be like my friends, like my family, and that nastiness of it between that bad apple and like everyone else. So yeah, that's definitely my story of Teavana. This is kind of more like an employee perspective. I know generally customers have different perspectives of it all. We're definitely not pushy salespeople. It is very competitive internally, and I say just respect one another. At the end of the day, you know, we should all choose to go to a job that we really enjoy doing. I think that at the end of the day, it was the best decision for me. I really miss everyone that was there. I know now some people have left. There's new people working there now. And it was definitely a journey for me too, to become a better person, just dealing with a lot of, not conflict, but like situations that I've never been put in before. But generally, I have good thoughts about Teavana. I would recommend working there for anyone who really is someone that likes selling things, and that's very friendly with people, someone that's very genuine, because I think if you have your heart in the right place, it's a very nice place to work. I mean, the people there were very friendly, they were very understanding, and I think that it's not for everyone, that's for sure. If you just want to be a barista, I recommend just working at Starbucks, but if you definitely want a little spice to your day, I think you should definitely work at Teavana. But now that it's going out of business, I don't know if that's even possible, but we'll see. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and be a shiner in my galaxy of stars. Bye everyone, I'll see you next time.